The challenges here are on a massive scale. We must keep in mind India, the megacities, and the immense population. The architecture of her society is social imbalance. The rich are very rich, the poor are very poor, and for the most part it's been accepted by everyone on every level. They're used to it. Unraveling this structure is an evolutionary process that'll take generations to come. It would be easier to start from scratch since it takes so much undoing. The majority of the population seems to have given up on the idea of some sort of egalitarian possibility, and the 3 million plus non-governmental organizations throughout the country focus on the critical issues of general welfare. In respect to India of eventually obtaining a more equal society, the number one tool to accomplish this feat is the great equalizer: education. The other two main factors in the battle that the Indians face in providing living standards that will protect its at-risk inhabitants from the deadly elements of extreme poverty are, as already mentioned, sanitation, and perhaps less discernible for some, transportation.
I think rural area is not an issue because land is available and people own the land, and there's agriculture. So I think they are able to supplement their income. But in urban areas, if you're really talking about providing shelter to people living in urban slums, I think we need to look at infrastructure. I think which includes water, sanitation, and electricity. And second thing is livelihood. If you're going to relocate people from maybe the Arabi slums to another area. So I think we are uprooting the whole community. I think livelihood is very important because they have, their livelihood, their social structure is already built there. So if you're really looking at relocation, I think we need to build on the infrastructure and the livelihood, the social structure before we can relocate the people.
So what happens is that 200 kilometers away, if somebody had to come for 200 kilometers away, it would take them upwards of 6 hours today. It's impossible.
In the present conditions.
In the present condition. So if he has to get to work at 8 a.m., how he's going to have to leave his house at 2 a.m. Mm-hmm. And so this is just not possible. Mm-hmm. The problem here is because there is no quick transportation. The reason that gentleman or that family is living in that slum is that so he can be in and around the work area. Say he could on the outskirts of the city, which is say maybe hundreds of kilometers, and there's a high-speed train which could get you maybe within an hour, like from 200, like going at about 150 kilometers an hour, 200 kilometers an hour. You can come into the city. Then if you actually go and see the prices, 200 kilometers away from Mumbai, they're reasonably affordable.
Up until fairly recently, this factor of infrastructure was neither a concern nor a reality. There were disconnected villages and densely populated cities and nothing in between. Suburbia didn't really exist. It's probably the leading cause of the size of the slums, and increased efficient mobility would be their most effective solution.
People would then move out there, probably move out of the slums and say, okay, buy a small place here because it's 200 kilometers away, but I can hop on this train and I'm there to work in an hour and a half. So if I leave it, and I can go back there. A community will form over there, will kind of form itself over there. These guys are obviously going to need stuff. Then the grocery store will come and they will end up spending money out there also because they're going to have to eat. So then things will start mushrooming and that entire area will develop.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we just launched is Sensitize to Sanitize campaign. It's basically to deal with sanitation. Yeah,
It's a big issue.
big issue. We have 600 million people who practice open defecation in India. 600 million, highest in the world.
Describe day one of
Day one, you want me to describe day one?
Yeah.
David is a filmmaker from Los Angeles. He is doing a movie about two cities, Los Angeles and Mumbai. He wants me to answer what was day one on the beach. Let me go back. It was over a second, a year back. And I was contemplating, I moved in this area 6 months before. मेरे balcony से समुद्र दिखता है, पूरा प्लास्टिक दिखता था और कोई लोग दिखते ही नहीं थे। ना कोई वॉक करने आता है, ना कोई स्विम करने आता है। और जब मैं सुबह बीच पे जाता था, मैं बोला आई थॉट टू माई सेल्फ आई शुड गो देयर एंड सी क्या है। आप अगर सुबह जाएंगे 6 बजे से 10 बजे के बीच में सब टॉयलेट्स करते हैं, लेफ्ट राइट सेंटर। तो एक तो साइड रिपल्सिव होती है। डेविड, व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू टेल इज ओपन डिफेकेशन इज अ बिग प्रॉब्लम देयर ऑन द बीच। सो आई डिसाइडेड दैट आई विल, मैं लॉयर था तो कई लोगों ने बोला हाई कोर्ट में पिटिशन दाखिल करो, पब्लिक इंटरेस्ट लिटिगेशन बोलते हैं, और चीफ जस्टिस को बोलो ये कुछ करो इसके। चीफ मिनिस्टर नहीं करता तो चीफ जस्टिस करेगा, जुडिशरी करेगी। इसके बारे में मैंने बहुत सोचा, फिर मैंने सोचा आई टेक अ हार्ड वे, थोड़ा टफ वे, एंड व्हाट डेविड इज आस्किंग इज टू, इट इज अ टफ वे। I asked myself, yes, I know something is wrong. What can I do to rectify it? अब मैं क्या करूं इसको सुधारने के लिए? मैं अकेला आदमी हूं, मैं क्या कर सकता हूं? मैं ग्लव्स पहन के प्लास्टिक उठा सकता हूं, इससे ज़्यादा मैं क्या कर सकता हूं? तो मैं बीच में गया और 84-year-old मेरे साथ गए। हमने पहले दिन में 5 बैग भर के प्लास्टिक निकाला, बहुत खुश हो गए। मेरे को पता नहीं था कि ये जेटी साइड और इतना बड़ा प्लास्टिक का 5-5 फुट का वो है। We picked up 5 bags and we were very happy. So that was my first day.
It's difficult to find a more inspiring story of community volunteerism than Afro Shaw. It's not the frequency of his engagement, but the persistence of it that's important, and his ability to raise awareness, particularly in the young.
Let me see.
Yeah, you have to click it. Save the beach, he says.
Getting families involved and speaking at local schools in the hopes of replicating his model of success.
They're hard workers.
In 2015, he and a friend walking the beach of Versova, picking up trash by hand, eventually transpired into the largest beach cleanup in world history. 1 year later, the United Nations named him a Champion of the Earth, inspiring their environmental program to launch the Clean Seas campaign globally. As of August 29, 2021, he has spent every weekend for the past 323 dedicating his time to sanitation and plastic removal from Mumbai's rivers and ocean shore.
दो लोग थे, we didn't ever think where it will go, how it will go. I didn't know. आज देखिए, yesterday there were around 1,300 people on the beach. 1,300 people on the beach cleaning the beach, which is quite commendable.
I'm of the belief that not just education and not just informal education but formal education is extremely important. Just when we are poised to become the youngest country as in country with the maximum number of young people in the world, we definitely need our young adolescents. We definitely need to invest money, resources, everything in this young population because they're going to be the tomorrow of India. And the world, because they are going to be the maximum number of people. So there's a lot of investment that needs to happen with this, and education is a means to do human development. It is one of the basic steps to move towards human development. That's the foundation to have good responsible citizens. I mean, it's not in education just doesn't give academics, but it definitely does a lot with other aspects of development, which is discipline, which is respect for your own things, and that is what it should be do. And that's the reason why I'm of the firm belief that this can happen in a formal schooling system where there is a discipline, where there is an assembly, where they can inculcate all the values which they need to know at that foundation level.
Formal education is essential to the wealth of a nation. In fact, just literacy alone shows remarkable improvement. Look at China by comparison, the only other country that deals with the same circumstance of overpopulation. India's current literacy rate is 74%, which, to be fair, is a vast improvement from 20% before their independence in 1947. China, whose economy is almost 6 times the size in nominal figures, has a literacy rate of 97%. Another advantage, and one of the few inclusive programs of the CCP, was to impose compulsory teaching of Mandarin in all schools, unifying the country with one language. By comparison, 121 languages are spoken by at least 10,000 or more Indian citizens. The 57% fluent in Hindi have a far greater advantage, and the 10% that speak English as a second language have an even greater advantage.
The idea is that if they come out with a good level of education, they would, when they go into the world, into the job market, they would secure a job better than his or her, their parent, and maybe their child would secure a better, and maybe in 2 generations you would see a tectonic shift in their standing.
They've missed out, especially these night school students have missed out a lot of things because they're dropouts. Most of them are dropouts. Mm-hmm. And it's important that this foundation needs to be built through education, through a good quality education, so that when they step out, ready to kind of face the world, take on more responsibilities, they will not only contribute to the nation building, but also contribute to their own growth and progress. So education can do a lot. It's very important. Once you invest, make right kind of investments, and if we spend the right kind of things and we are able to kind of crack that, then I think the rest of the problems that we have in today's world and today's India will not be there.
On a micro level, I think that if everybody does that, in India at least, I think we could see some reasonable results.